tonight. President Buhari warns against thuggery ahead of 2023 elections. Federal government backtracks, say no plan to review civil servant salaries. While on the foreign scene, Malian court sentences Ivorian soldiers for conspiracy. Good evening, and we're glad to have you join us on the major report. I am Olubunmi Ajiboye Agbola. As the 2023 general elections is fast approaching, President Muhammadu Buhari has warned against attempts to create unrest in any part of the country. President Buhari gave this warning in his New Year message to Nigerians, saying his government will ensure such activities are met with the full force of the law. He appealed to every citizen to participate in a way that will ensure free and fair elections, but to avoid being used by some politicians to foil the smooth elections. The president also promised that the collective electoral will and votes of Nigerians will be fulfilled even in the twilight moment of his watch. Meanwhile, majority of the political parties eligible to field candidates for the February Presidential National Assembly elections are yet to meet up with a certain provision of the law ahead of the elections. Reports indicate that by virtue of Section 43 of the Electoral Act 2022, political parties are mandated to submit lists of polling agents to the Independent National Electoral Commission. According to INEC's timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly elections, parties are to submit lists of polling agents to the electoral officers of the 774 local government areas through dedicated INEC portals. However, INEC National Commissioner for Voters, Education and Publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye, could not confirm the number of political parties that have met up or observed the provision of the Electoral Act. Mr. Okoye told newsmen to exercise patience and wait for the expiration of the deadline. Speaking on the update of permanent voter cards awaiting collection by prospective voters, the INEC commissioner was silent on the estimate, noting that the commission could only arrive at the statistics after the window available to Nigerians to pick up their cards has been exhausted. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, has said that the ongoing investments in infrastructure development are the key needed to unlock the Nigerian economy for speedy development. Fashola disclosed this during an inspection of the Apapa Oshodi Ojota Oworeshoki reconstruction project in Lagos. The minister said President Muhammadu Buhari's administration had achieved advancement of the economy through infrastructure development, citing creation of employment and markets for small and medium enterprises, especially at the construction sites. He recalled how inaccessible the access was a few years back before the award of the expressway project nearing completion, which had changed the narrative. He vowed to restore sanity, law and order on highways no matter whose ox is God, saying this was to stop abuse and damage to roads, bridges and other infrastructure in the country. He also frowned at the activities of mechanics, panel beaters and other auto technicians, as well as the degradation of highway projects, saying government would not be deterred by cheap blackmail, be it ethnic or religious. The federal government says it will spend a total of 3.3 billion naira on former heads of the government and its ministries, departments and agencies in 2023. This is contained in the 2023 appropriation bill passed by the National Assembly as several benefits to retired heads of government agencies and parastatals will cost the country 1 billion naira, while the entitlements of former presidents and heads of state and vice presidents alongside chief of general staff is allocated 2.3 billion naira. The 2023 budget is the eighth and the last to be presented by President Muhammadu Buhari and the last to be passed by the 9th National Assembly. Meanwhile, the federal government proposed a total of 470 billion naira for revitalization of tertiary institutions and upgrade of university lecturers' salaries. President Muhammadu Buhari, in his address to a joint session of the National Assembly while laying the budget, announced a 470 billion naira intervention fund to end the protracted crisis between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Meanwhile, the federal government has said it will not review the salaries of public and civil servants. The Minister of Labor and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, made the clarification in a statement issued by the Deputy Director of Press and Public Relations Unit of the Ministry, Olajide Oshodo, in Abuja. The minister said that what he meant was a review of the remuneration and emolument of the affected workers, especially the civil servants. It was learned that the Presidential Committee on Salaries, through the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, received recommendations for review of allowances of many ministries, departments, and agencies of government. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Akali, has urged Nigerians to join hands in tackling insecurity across the country. The IGP gave the admonition at the commissioning of the ultramodern police station and barrack for banks, for ranks and files at Ado Awaye in Iseyin, local government area of Oyo State. Mr. Baba Akali, who was represented by the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Force Criminal Investigation Department, Johnson Babatunde Kukumo, said combating crimes should be seen as the responsibility of all. He said that the upsurge in crimes rate nationwide would come to an end with concerted efforts of police and residents of various communities. He described community policing as panacea to the upsurge in crimes rate, soliciting the assistance of traditional rulers, youth, and other stakeholders in providing necessary information that will aid the police in carrying out their constitutional responsibilities of ensuring a crime-free society. Command of the Nigerian Army has directed over 120 major generals, brigadiers, colonels, lieutenants, captains, and others to proceed on compulsory retirement. The affected officers, who include those who failed their senior staff course examinations, were ordered to submit their letters of voluntary retirement or face summary retrenchment. Reports say the exercise was in accordance with the Public Service Rules and the Armed Forces of Nigeria Harmonized Terms and Conditions of Service 2017. The number of senior and middle level personnel that will be required to leave this service might be higher than 120, as those concerned were being given their letters of compulsory retirement in batches. It was further gathered that the affected personnel will proceed on the mandatory 3-month pre-retirement leave from next month. Nigerians have been charged to refrain from sins and seek the face of God in order to allow for divine restoration of the lost glory of the country. Venerable Superior Evangelist Akibade Ajovi gave the charge while speaking with Osbc News against the backdrop of the challenges facing the country. According to him, God does not demand anything other than restitution of sin so as to engender peace, progress, and prosperity for the people. The man of God, who decried the degree of bloodshedding in the country, maintained that the trend is one major factor impeding the manifestation of God's plan for Nigeria. While noting that government has a duty to stem the tide, he called on authorities to be more proactive on measures against the trend. He also stressed the need for people not to trek their sinful ways into the new year, as he urged them to shun evil ways and return to their Maker. Deputy Majority Leader, Osun State House of Assembly, Honorable Kunle Akande, has reiterated his commitment to always prioritize the welfare of his constituents. Honorable Akande stated this while disbursing cash worth 2 million naira to 200 members of his constituency in second edition of his empowerment program. Each of the recipients was given a sum of 10,000 naira to boost their petty trade. He remarked that the desire to improve the living conditions of the people informed his desire to assist petty traders to boost their trade. Honorable Akonde, who explained that the offer is not a loan but financial assistance, expressed happiness that the bulk of the beneficiaries are women who have unwittingly become the breadwinner of the families. He charged them to make judicious use of the grants so as to enable them increase their seed capital base. At the events in which beneficiaries received 10,000 naira each, Honorable Akonde took time to showcase his scorecards, which include quality representation in the House, provision of infrastructures like road rehabilitation, school rehabilitation, construction and rehabilitation of boreholes, scholarship awards, and communal support. Party stalwarts and 7 lawmakers of the House and National Assembly graced the occasion. The chairman of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation, Engineer Yinka Oyewole, has reiterated the foundation's commitment towards the uplift of the aged and the less privileged across the states and beyond. Engineer Oyewole said this at the end of the year party of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation held at the foundation's headquarters in Osogbo, Osun State capital. Oluwatobiloba Odunuga reports.
The end of the year party of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation attracted dignitaries, well-meaning individuals, family and friends who all converge on the foundation's headquarters located at Okeoniti area in Osogbo to appreciate God's kindness and faithfulness for keeping them thus far. In his remarks at the end of the year party, the chairman of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation, Engineer Yinka Oyewole, maintained that it is a season of love and giving, noting that the good gestures being extended to the aged, widows, less privileged, and other vulnerables is born out of the kindness and love their father do share with the people during his lifetime. The chairman added that quarterly medical outreach are being done in every branch of the foundation, noting that the outreaches is always coupled with distribution of incentives as a way of empowering the people, also with distribution of food items and other essentials.
We are celebrating the goodness, the faithfulness, the love of God over our lives, over humanity. I felt there should be a need for us to impact on humanity. After the demise of my dad, this philanthropic home was put in place, and since then we have been having series of outreaches to add value to the lives of the aged, the widows, and people who are less privileged.
According to the coordinator of the foundation, Mrs. Olufunke Olaosun, members who have benefited in the outreaches of the foundation is quoted to be about 3,000 personnel who have benefited in various medical checkup and empowerment. She added that the mission of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation is to continue to honor what late Chief Samuel Oyewole stood for during his lifetime.
It's a vision that cares for the aged, the less privileged, the vulnerables, the widow, the widowers, and the aged. In terms of health, we care for their health, and the health covers the eye care too.
Beneficiaries of Samuel Olapade Oyewole Foundation, including Pastor Peter Oyewale, Mr. Moshood Adewuyi, Mrs. Joanna Oyadeji, and Mrs. Webatu Suleiman, among others, took turns to appreciate and enumerate how the foundation have impacted their lives for good. The end of the year party climax with the distribution of food items and other essentials, among others. Oluwa Tobiloba Odunuga, Osbc News.
Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke will be addressing the citizens and residents of the state in a New Year broadcast tomorrow. Governor Adeleke will be speaking on the affairs of the state and also elucidate on his administration's plan of action for socio-economic development of the state. The broadcast will take to airwaves of OSBC channels by 7 o'clock in the morning. Former Pope Benedict XVI has died at age 95, almost a decade after he stood down because of ailing health. He led the Catholic Church for fewer than 8 years until 2013. He became the first pope to resign since Gregory VII in 1415. Benedict spent his final years at the Mater Ecclesiae Monastery within the walls of the Vatican, where he passed away today, and his successor, Pope Francis, will lead the funeral on 5th of January. The Vatican said the body of the Pope Emeritus will be placed in St. Peter's Basilica from the 2nd of January for the greeting on the faithful. Bells rang out from Munich Cathedral, and a single bell was heard ringing from St. Peter's Square in Rome after the former Pope's death was announced. You are welcome to our sports segment. Football's world governed by the FIFA has lowered flags at half-mast at its headquarters in Switzerland for Pelé as a symbol of mourning, as different countries and leagues pay last respects to the Brazilian legend. Omotayo Adebodo has the rest of the story and more.
Football league clubs wore black armband and held a minute applause before kickoff in honor of Brazil legend Pelé. The Scottish Professional Football League has also suggested all clubs pay their respect with a minute applause or other appropriate gesture. The Premier League tribute began with West Ham versus Brentford, with the iconic image of Pelé embracing Bobby Moore shown on the big screen at London Stadium. All 10 Premier League games over this weekend will hold similar tributes. A minute applause and black armband were also worn at the EFL fixtures, and other clubs will follow suit on the 1st and 2nd of January. The Italian Football Federation says it has arranged a minute of silence to remember Pelé in forthcoming games, while Pelé's contribution to the sport will similarly be recognized at matches in Spain and France this weekend. In the meantime, Cristiano Ronaldo has joined Saudi Arabian side Al Nassr on a deal that runs until 2025. The Portugal captain is a free agent after leaving Manchester United following a controversial interview in which he criticized the club. Ronaldo will reportedly receive the biggest football salary in the history at a more than £177 million per year. The 37-year-old says he is eager to experience a new football league in a different country. And Al Nassr, on the other hand, a 9-time Saudi Pro League champion, described the signing as history in the making. Ronaldo, who scored 145 goals in 346 appearances for United, left Juventus to rejoin the Old Trafford club in August 2021, 11 years after he departed to join Real Madrid. Ronaldo recently returned from playing for Portugal at the World Cup in Qatar, where he made history by becoming the first man to score at 5 different FIFA World Cups with his strike in his side's opening win against Ghana. Omotayo Adebodo, Osbc News.
While on a foreign scene, a court in Mali has sentenced 46 soldiers from Cote d'Ivoire to 20 years imprisonment for conspiring against the government and 3 others to death in absentia. Details of this story and more are presented by Kayode Adebayo.
49 Cote d'Ivoire soldiers were arrested at the airport in Mali's capital, Bamako, in July, 3 of whom were later released. Their arrest led to a diplomatic row between the neighboring countries and widespread condemnation from regional allies. The soldiers were detained when they went to work for Sahel Aviation Service, a private company contracted to work in Mali by the United Nations. Mali's military administration said the soldiers were acting as mercenaries, while Cote d'Ivoire said they were part of a UN peacekeeping mission. They were charged with attempting to undermine state security in August and convicted in a trial ahead of January 1 deadline set by the Economic Community of West African States, the region's main political and economic bloc, to release them or face sanctions. The soldiers who were fined more than $3,000 were also convicted of carrying and transporting weapons. At least 4 people have been killed and 12 others wounded in an attack on a police checkpoint in the Suez Canal city of Ismailia, Egypt. The dead included 3 police officers and an unidentified person, and most of the wounded are conscripts and have been taken to the hospital. Security officials described the attack as a terrorist strike, but no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Egypt has been battling the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant fighters in the northern part of the Sinai Peninsula for years. The security forces have launched a wide-range campaign seeking to root out members of armed groups in the Sinai parts of the Nile Delta and deserts along the country's western border with Libya. South Korea's military says North Korea has fired 3 short-range ballistic missiles towards the sea to the east of the Korean Peninsula. The latest missile comes 5 days after North Korea flew drones into South Korea's airspace for the first.
And the major reports. Here's a recap of some of the top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari has warned against thuggery ahead of 2023 elections. We also reported that the federal government has backtracked, saying no plan to review civil servant salaries. While on the foreign scene, we brought you a report that Malian court has sentenced Ivorian soldiers for conspiracy, and that ends the major report on OSBC TV. It was edited by Kayode Adebayo. I am Olubomi Ajiboye Agbola, thanking you for being there always. Good night.